Prompt engineering. This has become somewhat of a debate amongst a lot of different people. Is this a skill that you really need to develop? What are some other sub-skills associated with prompt engineering that you need to develop? Do students really need to develop these skills? So the debate goes that, oh, prompt engineering, meaning asking the AI something in a certain way that you don't need to develop because the AI is developing so quickly that it's just going to understand you. The problem with that argument is that we as people have problems interacting with ourselves, right? I mean, I teach a class dealing specifically with professional communication. So the idea is that most people don't know how to properly interact in the very best way in order to get the desired result, in order to get the best understanding from each other. So that's why prompt engineering is something that needs to be developed. Now, I will agree that at a foundational level, all we're talking about with increasing our capabilities with the AI is being able to ask good questions, is being able to properly communicate. That's the foundation of good prompt engineering. And the AIs will continue to develop. They will continue to get much better. So they will understand us at a higher level, but it still won't be able to fill in all the blanks for us. We have to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to express ourselves in the very best way. So that is where prompt engineering comes in. And all prompt engineering is just understanding the way to formulate our questions, to formulate our interactions. It's the same way as if when we're interacting with someone as well. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go over my prompt formula. There are many different prompt formulas out there, and they're all really good. Look at them and just start to extract the important aspects in order to enhance the communication with the AI. And a good rule of thumb for this is just to think about it as if you're interacting with someone else. So the first one is the task for my prompt formula, right? So I'm asking it, so I'm going to say that I want to give it a task such as, if I were to say something like, oh, I'd like you to write an essay for me, let's say, right? Again, this is just so that I get an experience of what this would look like. So if I say write an essay dealing with democracy. Okay, so that's the task. I'm asking it to write something for me. This could be to answer a question. This could be to create something else. But this is a task. So that's the overall thing, a task. Now it's at least primed in some way as to what it is that I want. Now from there, I need to give it more specific instructions, because if we give it good detail, then the response that we get will be that much more detailed as well. So if I give it instructions such as, oh, I want it to be 500 words. I want it to be from the perspective of let's say, a student in a freshman seminar, right? A university student in freshman seminar class. So I'm giving it very specific instructions, and I can say additional things such as, I want it to be a very personal account. So this needs to be a narrative essay. You see, I'm giving it more specific instructions. So that's going to be a very specific thing. Now, the context is another part. So the context means that, oh, in what framework? Now, I gave some of that within the instructions, but the context is important to understand. So this means that this falls within this realm at a university from that perspective. So I wanted to assume this certain role, right? So the role here, the context is a freshman seminar. So it's a freshman university student perspective, right? So context, perspective, that all comes into play. Because again, we wanted to assume a certain role and to give us this viewpoint. So the context is really important. Another one, and this is another part of this overall formula that I have found, and again, I've seen this in other places as well, but I found this through my experience, is giving it a reason. Specifically giving it a reason really helps, because then it helps the AI to understand, oh, why is it that you're asking me this? What's the purpose of this? So by giving it reasons, I want you to write this essay so that I can have a great example to show students about a good narrative essay. Again, you see how I'm giving it the reasons. So now it's going to take that into account as it's creating the response that I'm looking for. And then finally, clarification. So with clarification, It's just a simple matter of saying, do you understand? Do you understand this question? Do you understand this directive? Just simply, do you understand? That's enough. Sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes it really helps because it helps to clarify. Sometimes the AI will come back and say, oh, you said this and I don't understand this, or you use this word and maybe you misspelled it, and it'll call you out on it and say, do you mean this or do you mean this? So again, that's really important. Again, think about this as us having a conversation. If I'm talking to someone and I were to ask them to do this, I would ask them, do you see what I mean? Are you getting this? And then they would have an opportunity to then ask me questions. So that is an important part of this as well within that overall formula. Now, after we use this formula and we put it in, then we get the result. But that's not the end of the conversation, because again, with the AI, I can continue to have my conversation. So the refinement is another aspect of this formula, meaning that I can continue on our conversation just like I would with a regular person and saying, no, I didn't mean this, or can you change this, or actually I meant this. Can you modify that perspective? Can you make it less wordy? Can you make it more of a personal story? Again, we can have this conversation. So this is an important thing. Now, think about this in that when I'm working with the AI and I'm using this prompt formula, there are a bunch of sub skills that I need to be sure that I have. Again, this is where the AI literacy is really important, because all of this falls within capability, right? Of our overall AI literacy, the four aspects of this capability, that's where being a good prompt engineer falls in. And with that, there are these subcomponents. What do I need to be a good prompt engineer? Well, I need excellent communication skills. I need to be able to critically think and analyze, how would someone else take this? If I were to give these directions to someone else, would they understand? Do I need to present more details? Maybe an example is in order. Sometimes that can greatly increase the understanding of what it is that I'm asking. Sometimes you don't need an example. So again, it's important to really have these sub skills, because that really comes into play. Other things such as, additional to critical analysis are just things like being patient, being a good way to explain things, so you have a good grasp of the language itself. And then additionally, it's also great if you know the subject matter. The more that I know about the subject matter, the better that I can ask questions. So that really comes into play. Again, all these subcomponents, I need to understand these subtasks in order to be able to be a good prompt engineer. So all these things come into play. Again, the AI is getting better, so it'll be able to understand us that much better, but it's still going to require us to ask good questions in order to get good results. And remember, learning is for life.